Hello and welcome to Space Shark Teaches. I'm Sean, owner and lead developer of Space Shark Studios, and in this series we're going to be teaching Godot. In this lesson, we're going to be going back and revisiting scenes. If you remember back in the beginning, I showed you how you could create, child scenes, small scenes that contained other pieces of the game. We made a player that was a separate scene from the main scene. We're going to be doing that again today to clean up this project the same way that we did with the scripts when we made a bunch of different functions for them. So to start, we've kind of just been diving straight into this and going straight to the code. And because of that, we have a really nasty looking scene hierarchy. We have everything kind of just in one folder in here. So let's go ahead and clean things up on the folder side. So over here in the file system, you can right click and start creating new folders. So first you can see we have 3 different sprites, and we can go ahead and drag those into a new sprite folder that we just created. We also have 2 different scripts. So let's go ahead and make a scripts folder. And now that we have a scripts folder, we could take anything with this VS at the end, over here at the end, or with one of these little gear with a VS under it, and drag that into the scripts folder. Now that we've done that, it's a lot easier to go and find what we need. So you click on Sprite, or I guess let's go ahead and rename that Sprites. Click on the Sprites folder to find all our sprites. So those are all the images we're using for our game. Click on the Scripts to find the scripts, same as when we click into here. Or the master folder right there, which is where you find your scenes right now. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's clean up this mess. So first off, let's go ahead and rename our kinematic player 2D, because that's, and this is a very long name. Let's just call this player. And like we've done before, let's go ahead and make this player into its own scene. So right click on player, down to save branch as scene. Once we've done that, we can now choose what do we want the name of the scene to be and where do we want it to go. We can now create a new folder called scenes and put that in there. So now we know all of the scenes that we can drag into here in the future. So if you remember, the power of this, let's go ahead and I just saved by Control S. The power of this is that we can now go in to player and do things like change its position, save, and we move it over here, they'll now be separate. So that's just to show initially this position is tied to wherever the scene is. But most importantly, if we want to say change the texture that this, or the sprite that our player is using, we can go into the player scene up here. You can do that by, over on the player, you click on this open in editor button. And then under the sprite, you can use the drop down, load, search for our sprites, and swap it out with that. And if you remember this happy little guy from the very beginning, the Godot icon. When we save that and go into our main menu, all of a sudden our player has it updated as well. While our player is not really going to change like that, so it's probably not useful to do that, we can go ahead and just drag that back in and resize them again. we're probably not going to be doing that much for the player. But we have all of these pieces of floor that are not quite lined up right. Well, I guess they are now. But if you remember, there are now how many of these different pieces in here all nasty looking like this? We don't need each one of these to be edited by hand every time. So if we wanted to switch out, let's say, all of the floor pieces sprites, we would have to go in to each and every one, drag this in, expand this out, drag this in, resize it so it looks right. That's going to get very annoying very quickly. So instead, let's go ahead and delete all but one. And let's go ahead and rename this to floor piece. And just like we did with player, we can right click, save branch as scene, and now we have a floor piece scene that we can go into. And I mean, that's basically it. Now we have a floor piece that we can drag in and do whatever we want with. So take this, move it around. Let's go ahead and make a container for all these. So add a child node of node, or wrong, node, delete that, node 2D. That's in the right spot. And now we can delete. And under this node 2D, when you have it selected, you can just start dragging in floor pieces. Drag another one in. Drag another one in. And we can do the same thing that we did last time. So select one, Control D to duplicate it works as well. We can kind of recreate our scene from before, or some version of it. But now it's all nice looking. So you don't have all of those different things, all of those different floor pieces all scattered out throughout everywhere. And if we want to go and swap out what this image is, it is now very simple. So let's drag this in again. Make sure it fills up the space. Save. Voila. It is now in your game. You're dancing around on a bunch of little Godot heads. And that's all there is. So now we can edit these whenever we want. Swap things back out. Save, and they are back to how they were. That's what makes this so powerful, is that now we have one item that we can change that will update all instances of it in the game. So now that we have platforms, this will be useful for enemies or coins to collect, other sorts of things like traps and spikes. Everything like that will use this sort of nested scene system. That's it for this lesson. Thank you for watching, and this has been Sean with Space Shark Teaches.